Hey, what's up, guys? What's up? Welcome back. Dr. Jaws here, and tonight we are covering the Grey Reef Shark, Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos. I'm super excited for this species because we actually do have a lot of footage on this animal as well as a lot of research as far as there's so much to talk about with this particular shark in terms of social behavior, in terms of just like how it interacts with divers. So, a lot of cool stuff to cover. I think this is going to be a really fun stream tonight. Hey, Howard, welcome back. Good evening to you, too. Hope you had a good weekend. It's kind of hard to believe it's June, it's really exciting because this is the month when at least in the Chesapeake Bay, all the summertime sharks come back. So bull sharks are coming back. Hey, Bibia, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. I was just saying, Chesapeake Bay, Virginia, we have all of our summertime sharks back now. So we have bull sharks back in the area. We have scalped hammerheads back in the area. Now we have blacktip and spinner sharks back in the area, most likely. So the famous blacktip shark migration from Florida up to the mid-Atlantic really is starting to come into fruition now. So it's really, really cool time of year, just with all of the summertime species coming back. So June through September in this part of the world, we have the peak biodiversity of sharks. So the water is warm. I'm going to be scuba diving next weekend, so very excited about that. Fingers crossed I do see some sharks, but we'll see. So I think without further ado, let's dive into this species, and there's a lot to review. So Grey Reef Sharks. Let me make sure I have... There we go. Okay. So Grey Reef Sharks. This is some dive footage of little Grey Reef Sharks, but this is a very well-studied species and probably one of the more famous Indo-Pacific species. And to such a degree that even though I personally specialize in Atlantic sharks, I focus more on Atlantic shark species, I do know quite a bit about Grey Reef Sharks. And it's kind of hard to pick a place to start, really, but probably the most... No. No ads. Hate the ads. Probably the thing that they're the most famous for is their social behavior, where they are pretty. They emit very clear warning signs if they are being harassed, or it's almost kind of like wolves. It really does remind me of wolves a lot, where they will do different behaviors to kind of signify how they're feeling. So the most famous behaviors that Grey Reef Sharks do are they will arch their back if they are feeling agitated or just feeling disturbed. And they will also point their pectoral fins down if they are feeling disturbed as well. So it's kind of really cool to see a shark communicate in a weird way. Hey, back off! You are really invading my space. You are not somebody I want in my territory. I need you to get out. And Grey Reef Sharks are able to communicate that in their swimming, in their body language. Grey Reef Sharks are also very excitable, where they will... they're, I think, a classic feeding frenzy shark, where the phenomenon of feeding frenzy, where sharks that start eating something, munching on something, they get really, really excited of this group of sharks. So I do want to check in. Let's check in really quick. Bonnethead sharks eating seagrass. Because I forget what it was, but I thought there was something about that where it was more of a byproduct. It's more like they're able to ingest it while they're ingesting their prey items, but they're not targeting it. But let's see. Science is fairly reputable, so blah blah blah. Bonnethead shark hunts in seagrass meadows. It does have... Oh! Several sharks in a saltwater tank have died. 90% eelgrass, 10% squid. Interesting. Okay. So I guess this is more legit than I thought. I as far as... Yeah, okay, so Science is a pretty reputable magazine, so maybe we probably won't redo the episode just because we have so many sharks to cover, but the seagrass phenomenon has more merit than I kind of
thought. And the reason why I've been so hesitant about it seems like such a strange adaptation. And I kind of have a theory, or like a hypothesis, that bonnetheads are able to eat seagrass as a byproduct of them going after things that live in seagrass. But I don't know if they're actually targeting seagrass as a food source, if that makes sense. It's like an animal that's like trying to eat a crab, but in snatching the crab, maybe you get a piece of seagrass and you're able to digest it. But it doesn't mean you're targeting it. That's kind of my hypothesis on it. But it is a sound thing. So I mean, good catch on kind of skipping over it. And I think I deliberately skipped over it on the Bonnethead episode because I just think it's such a strange thing where I feel like it makes like punchy headlines like, oh, it's a salad-eating shark or it's a vegetarian shark, but I don't know if that's fair to say about the bonnethead. So that's my hypothesis on it, but that's a good shout out though. So Bibby, I watched about 2 hours and nothing about its diet. Well, bonnetheads have a lot behind them. The big thing that I hope I covered was parthenogenesis, where they are able to, they've documented in giving essentially virgin birth, which is really cool. Howard, I've always wondered if the whole feeding frenzy was a bit of a myth, i.e. how many these incidents were provoked by so-called researchers chumming the water. That's a really good point, Howard. That's a really, really good question. I'm not sure, because I know sharks have pretty interesting behaviors. I hate these ads. I know sharks have like pretty interesting behaviors where, like tonic immobility, like they can experience sensory overload. In the let's check, because this is gonna have Grey Reef Shark information on it too. Let's check our good friend Florida Museum of Natural History. So it's been a long while since we've been on this website, but it's actually one of the best like kind of general overview shark websites. Florida Museum of Natural History is great information. Typically Atlantic species, but it's fun to see it cover a Pacific species. So let's check out Sphaenotabira really quick. Florida Museum. Because a lot of the sharks that we've been covering lately are so rare that they don't really make it in the Florida Museum of Natural History. It's kind of more like popular species or Atlantic species. So, okay, seagrass. Okay. Occasionally, so Florida Museum of Natural History is saying occasionally bonnetheads will also feed on seagrasses, especially as pups. Okay. The pups will live in seagrass beds for the first years of life. So that's pretty interesting, where if a bonnethead pup is going after... That is so interesting. So I guess you're right, Bibia. I guess they do choose to eat it, but that's so strange, you know. Bethia et al. Let's see. I'm gonna check one more thing, and I promise we'll go right back to Grey Reef Sharks, because I'm honestly really curious about this too. So the research, like the first bit of research about seagrass came from Bethia et al. From 2007. So I kind of want to see if that article is still there. So I'm just hopping on to one of my favorite websites, sharkreferences.com. I'm just looking up the bonnethead, which is Sphaenotabira. Oh, it's actually not too many Sphaenos, which is great. We'll do this. I'm going to click on literature references. And it gives me, this website has everything. Like, it gives me a complete list of bonnethead research, including this one, Bethia et al. Okay. And I'm just going to control find seagrass. Okay. Data analysis showed an ontogenic shift in northwest Florida, meaning that as sharks grow older, get bigger, they shift in their diet. Young of the year stomachs contain a mix of seagrass and crustaceans, while juvenile stomachs makes a
crabs and seagrass, and adult stomachs contained almost exclusively crabs. Juveniles were a mix of seagrass and crustaceans. It's really interesting. And that's really it. But it is really interesting to see. Okay, so the little sharks, the little bonnetheads, are documented to have seagrass. Let's see what else we have. Seagrass digestion by a notorious carnivore. Okay. What an animal consumes and what an animal digests and assimilates for energetic demands is not always synonymous. Sharks, uniformly accepted as carnivores, have guts that are presumed to be well suited for a high-protein diet. However, the bonnethead shark, which is abundant in critical seagrass habitats, has been previously shown to consume copious amounts of seagrass, up to 62% of gut content mass, although it is unknown if they can digest and assimilate seagrass nutrients. To demonstrate if bonnetheads digest seagrass nutrients, captive sharks were fed a sea-level seagrass diet. Digestibility analysis, digestive enzyme assays, and stable isotope analysis were used to determine the bonnethead shark's capacity for digesting and assimilating seagrass material. Let's see. Sharks assimilated seagrass carbon with 50 to plus or minus 2% digestibility of seagrass organic matter. Additionally, cellulose component degrade enzyme activities were detected in shark hindguts. We show that a coastal shark is digesting seagrass with at least moderate efficiency, which has ecological implications due to the stabilizing role of omnivory and nutrient transport within fragile seagrass ecosystems. Okay, so that last sentence is enough, where the bonnethead shark is consuming seagrass enough to shape its habitat, or enough to have an impact in seagrass ecosystem. Therefore, that actually is very strong evidence that, okay, you can say that bonnetheads eat seagrass. So, honestly, no worries. Honestly, oh no, sorry, Roy. Sorry, I really got caught up on this, but Bibia, really good shout out actually, because that was something that's puzzled me because it seems such a strange behavior, but I think you were right. So it is technically, and I think saying that it can shape the ecosystem in that way is pretty strong evidence that you can say a bonnethead is an omnivore. So it is a shark that can digest seagrass to the degree that it might be part of its diet. It looks like it's the pups that are doing it, and then as the shark gets older, it focuses more on crabs. So really appreciate the shout out though, because that's actually really cool to confirm, because it's always been like a fuzzy area for me. So thank you. Roy, wait, can gray reef sharks also consume seagrass? No, sorry. I just was really curious about this, and I wanted to do some follow up on that. So, all right. Speaking of gray reef shark, let's go back and learn more about this species. Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos, here we go. So we're going to start out with I love this website, the Florida Museum of Natural History profile. And actually, this is already, super accurate. This is exactly how I personally see gray reef sharks. This is a classically shaped requiem shark. And I know that sounds really boring, and I know that sounds really dumb, but if I had to point to just the most normal looking shark, it's probably this species. Maybe a Caribbean reef shark, honestly, too, because Caribbean reef sharks they look kind of generic. Because when you look at the other Carcharhinus, like bull sharks, they're super heavy. Like, they're unmistakable, just how intimidating they look, how tough they look. Sandbar sharks have a giant dorsal fin. Blacktip sharks have a very sharp looking look. Dusky sharks, very elongated, have a unique fin placement. Silkies are very elegant. Each Carcharhinus has a little quality about them that make them unmistakable. But gray reef sharks, they're the classic. That is the sharkiest shark. I would say probably a Caribbean reef shark again, too, because you could see this really pretty little silver tip, this thin margin of silver on a gray reef shark, thin margin of black. So, more unique, I guess, but I always looked at this species as just the classic shark, to be honest. So, Like many species in the genus Carcharhinus, it is dark gray on the dorsal surface and paler, almost white on the ventral side. It can be distinguished from other species in the genus by a characteristically dark margin on the entire trailing edge of the caudal fin. In the western Indian Ocean and Red Sea populations, it has a white-edged dorsal fin, or first dorsal fin. This population has been described by some as a distinct species, Carcharhinus wheelerii. So that's actually really cool. So the Grey Reef Shark could be a species complex of two different species. So the Indo-Pacific Grey Reef Shark and then the Indian Ocean Red Sea Grey Reef Shark, Carcharhinus wheelerii, potentially. This species is sometimes mistaken for the blacktip reef sharks as they live in similar habitats, but the two species have strikingly different color patterns. Grey reef sharks are social, gathering in groups during the day and hunting alone at night. They are inquisitive and commonly approach divers. They are also believed to be territorial and been documented to arch their backs and push their pectoral fins downward and swim in an exaggerated pattern as part of a territorial display. They're strong and potentially dangerous, but are not likely to attack humans unless threatened. Alright, so common names for Grey Reef Shark. We have Grey Reef Shark, Black-tail Reef Shark, black-vee whaler, I'd never heard that, Grey Reef Shark, Grey Whaler Shark, and Long-nosed Black-tail Shark. Other common names from across the world include Requien d'Agsit in French, or Tiburon de Arrecifes in Spanish. Let's see. Species is more valued in dive tourism, or highly valued dive tourism, as it shows high site fidelity, meaning that Grey Reef Sharks like to stick around in particular areas and particular reefs, and is a common inhabitant of coral reef dive sites. So this is going to be a really cool species to get some dive notes on, and we'll take a look at Andy Merck's website, Allows of a Diver, or I think sharksarrays.com now. We'll take a look at the website to get a sense of the dive notes for the species. Danger to humans. The Grey Reef Shark is considered one of the more aggressive sharks, but will typically only show aggression towards a person when it feels threatened. According to the International Shark Attack File, the Grey Reef Shark is responsible for 8 confirmed shark bites on humans, one of which was fatal. So that's actually, I mean, in the astronomically low amount of shark attacks in the world, that's actually a very low number. So it's really not as quote-unquote dangerous as I thought, to be honest. The shark often shows curiosity and approaches divers. If cornered or threatened in some way, the Grey Reef Shark displays explicit threat behavior, including raising its snout, depressing the pectoral fins, and arching its back while swimming with an exaggerated sway. If the threat continues, the shark may immediately flee or may deliver a quick bite prior to retreating. This species of shark is also more likely to attack while solitary rather than schooling, perhaps due to increased feeling of vulnerability. So, pretty interesting stuff already. So, let's see. Oh, oh my gosh. I love this roar. I'm going to start this. Seagrass equals bonnethead baby food. Howard, yes, absolutely. When you say shark, most people picture something like this. That's exactly how I feel about Grey Reef Sharks. It just, I don't know what it is, but they always, I don't know what it is about them, but it's just like they seem like the most normal looking shark. So, let's see. Yeah, Bibia, yes, I like the sleek shape though. Yes, me too. I mean, it's actually really cool to see a classic shark, because we've seen a lot of really exciting, bizarre forms. I feel like lately, because we're focusing on deep water sharks and cat sharks, so it's really fun to kind of see the classic shape again, and especially to get footage on it. So I'm gonna see if we can move on beyond some ads. I really don't want any ads. So Betty. Skip. There we go. Nope, that's not what I want. There we go. Wanted to get back to this dive grotto. Also, if you saw that, back in the 90s, there was this amazing game that I had as a kid called Magic School Bus Explores the Ocean. And I kid you not, the soundtrack is actually awesome. So I highly recommend it. I'm not even joking. It's a very good ocean soundtrack. But, and actually probably the perfect music for this, check this out. This is a diver in a coral grotto with baby Grey Reef Sharks. Let's see if I can get this going. There we go. So imagine being. There we go. Sorry about the lag time. Imagine being here where you're just, the world is behind you and you're submerged in this like interesting little cave and these baby sharks are all around you. It's such an amazing dive opportunity and dive experience. I certainly have never done this, and I would love to do something like this someday. But especially like in the Indo-Pacific, I just feel like these kind of places, they're not really common to find, at least in the Atlantic coast of the United States and Canada. I could be wrong, but these like just rocky features, with these interesting like geometric shapes, making caves and tunnels. Like it's so cool. So I can't even like comprehend like what this is like. So it's amazing to be in this like little place in the world and just like be surrounded with these baby sharks, like these baby gray reef sharks, and just what a thrill and what a treat. So such a cool dive. The title of this video is Hawaii, Kona, Hawaii, shore diving along the Kona coast. There is a white tip reef shark, Trinodon obesus. More gray reef sharks here. Love to go. I almost went to Hawaii last year with family, or rather my fiance's family, and that trip didn't come to fruition, just for various reasons. But hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. And if we do, we're not soon, but again, and if we do, I would love to do something like this and like kind of try to, meet these critters. It's such a cool dive opportunity. It's also fun to see baby gray reef sharks in this particular habitat, and I'm curious as we learn more about the species, if the little sharks stick to a particular part of the reef and the big sharks are on a separate part of the reef, which probably is most likely the case because we've seen over and over again that juvenile sharks focus their time on different habitats from adult sharks. Sometimes that's a protection against cannibalism, where quite a few sharks can be somewhat cannibalistic. This is interesting. This is a really cool behavior. Let me rewind this. All right, check this out. There is a little gray reef shark that opens its mouth and is swimming slowly with the mouth open. This could be signaling cleaning, because there's a wrasse near this particular shark. So this could be a shark initiating cleaning behavior, where there are reef sharks that will swim very slowly and have their mouths open, so that they can allow little fish like wrasses to get in between the teeth and clean them. So the wrasses get a free meal, whether that's like a parasite or maybe something that's lodged in a tooth, and the shark actually gets some grooming that actually makes it healthier, dislodging parasites, or just kind of making it more comfortable if there was like something stuck in its teeth. So it's really cool to see. There's actually been quite a few species of sharks that will, chill on the seafloor, have their mouths open, or just swim very slowly and have their mouths open, and little wrasses or other little fish will come by and help clean their teeth. So off the top of my head, I think lemon sharks have been demonstrated to do that, as well as hammerheads. So great hammerheads and scalloped hammerheads. But one more time with this clip, because it's just such a cool sight. Like, just imagine again being here. It's so cool. So, Roy, I remember seeing something about how bonnethead sharks have a set of flatter molar-like teeth rear their jaws, so you're not far off when you said they're probably still grazers later on. Really good point. Dr. John should just do that episode again. That would be awesome. Thanks, guys. I mean, maybe what we could do next week is a different kind of hammerhead, because we haven't done all of them. I do think there are a few hammerheads up for grabs, so... also, I just saw this comment. The fins have a subtle colorization, like kind of like the black and white ends of the fins. Me too, for gray reef sharks. It's actually, honestly, last time I checked, I never really, noticed that part of them. Hold on. Doug goes, do sharks chew on hard things to clean loose teeth? Great question. I have never heard of that, and I don't think they do. I've never ever heard of that. Really cool though. I really like Roy's comment. Port Jackson sharks probably do. So they probably don't do it deliberately, but they definitely will lose teeth in the process of crunching their hard prey items. So I love that comment, Roy, because it's a great callback to Port Jackson shark's diet of shellfish. I think they eat whelks too, which is really cool. Just because that's a giant kind of snail that's a really tough shell to crack. But Port Jackson shark have the teeth to do it. As far as like quote unquote grooming, if you will, I've never heard of a shark deliberately biting something to shed teeth, and I think part of it too is the way a shark's jaws work, like with the conveyor belt of teeth. I think they will be loose enough to shed naturally, so I think a shark probably would not need to bite down like so hard as far as or they need to deliberately bite something hard. But that's a great question though, as far as like I like the thinking behind it. It is really cool. So as far as grooming, if you will, or like trying to clean or itself, sharks will do the thing like the swimming slowly for wrasse, or there's a theory that the sharks that leap out of the water, like basking sharks or spinner sharks, mako sharks, thresher sharks, they might be doing it to dislodge parasites as well. So some sharks will rub themselves on the bottom too. Like some shark, I can't remember if it was a nurse shark that we saw do that, but there was one stream where we did see a shark kind of aggressively rub the seabed, and that could be a parasite dislodging technique as well. So, and it's really cool. Like sharks, they're often depicted as just swimming somewhere in a straight line, and they really just have a lot more articulation and interact with the environment a lot in such a complex way. And I love that we're covering again Grey Reef Sharks, because when you think of articulation, I mean these sharks are very animated. You can even see it with the babies here, just like how active they are, how curious they are. Just how quickly they turn on the dime, how quickly they change direction. And let's see what we can see as far as any other behaviors. I was focused on the wrasse cleaning behavior, but you can see that a few individuals are kind of swimming somewhat near a leader individual, so nose to tail kind of behavior. That's a fairly common behavior with sharks, where they will kind of swim nose to tail, meaning that a shark's nose will be one individual's nose will be oriented towards another individual's tail, just like classic schooling behavior. Sometimes that can indicate hierarchy, although in this collection of sharks, I don't really see an evident hierarchy. But some sharks will have one. Bonnethead sharks, ironically, since we were talking about them, they will do it. Actually, you can see. Here we go. This is actually a great example of nose to tail behavior. In the next shot, you'll see it. So, well, not this one, but it's kind of close. In the bottom right corner, you'll see it. There we go. So see how these individuals, look at that. So see how these individuals are following the tail of the lead individual. So some of that can indicate a social hierarchy, and actually these guys are actually doing circling behavior, which is pretty interesting. So there's a couple of like fundamental behaviors that sharks will do, and researchers have observed them in captivity. Circling behavior is definitely one of them, where when you think about it, it seems at first glance kind of like simple, but really there's a lot more going on behind it, where you think of a shark could be anywhere in the tank or anywhere in the water, and yet an individual shark chooses to follow the tail movements of another individual, and in that you get this circling pattern. And there's a couple ideas behind it. One of them might be kind of like geese, where geese will fly in their V-shaped formations because it is theorized that the lead goose kind of like reduces drag, like it kind of is the one catching all of the air and like kind of like creating a slipstream, like kind of breaking through. like as it's flying, its wing beats kind of create a gap in pressure that the other geese behind it benefit from. So that's one theory as far as like why sharks will do circling behavior or tailing behavior if a shark is following if one individual is following another nose to tail. And what's extremely cool about that is all sharks do this. As a shark swims, it creates vortices and vacuums in the water column. Like the tail and the dermal denticles on the tail displace that much amount of water that it too kind of creates like really cool like slipstream effect that other sharks behind it can benefit from. So it reduces energy. So some of it could be that, just like reducing energy, reducing drag. Some of it could be social behavior, like some kind of like social hierarchy. So bonnetheads have been observed to do to observe social hierarchy. The other behavior that I can think of is yielding behavior when two sharks swim together and one yields. I've talked about it multiple times on the channel, but usually species combos in environments, if it's two different species, one will yield to the other depending on the species. So it's kind of cool. Like at first glance for this clip, and I know I've been repeating it over and over, it seems kind of normal, but then when you keep looking at it, you can actually see a lot of interesting behaviors going on with this little shiver of sharks. So, and that's the correct term for a group of sharks, is a shiver. So you say a school of fish or a shiver of sharks. You can get away with saying a school of sharks, but what's kind of funny is the official term, like gaggle of geese or herd of cow. I think it's a herd of cow. Or a pod of whales. It's a shiver of sharks. So, although people never say it, which is really sad, because it's like it's a cool term, but very few people. It feels like an older, antiquated term, so very few people say it. But okay, so a lot of cool behavior. Let's keep reading about this species. So, conservation. The Grey Reef Shark, and I'm just gonna catch up on comments. So. Shark farmers, yeah. Oh, hey, Howard, there's a footage of great white shark losing tooth during a feeding event. That is awesome. That is so cool. That's really cool. Also, great shout out for Howard too. Thank you, Bibia. Yeah, just like Howard's art is incredible. So, and a lot of the streams have it. Actually, I think we might have probably. We have dozens of pieces. I have to tally how many we have, and we have to do an art showcase. I know we did a couple streams that had one. So, and also since it's summer, we're definitely going to do another Shark Week contest. So more to come on that. But I'm very excited to. Once we get closer to Shark Week this year, to announce a new contest. So, conservation. The Grey Reef Shark exhibits a strong site fidelity to coral reefs, a habitat that is becoming increasingly more restricted, making them easier to catch and more susceptible to overfishing. In addition, their life history characteristics, small litter size, and relatively late age at maturity, make them particularly susceptible to population decline. At this time, there is not enough data to make reliable assessments of their global population status, but some local populations in Hawaii and the Chago Archipelago indicate that these populations have been severely impacted. The Grey Reef Shark is currently listed by the World Conservation Union (IUCN) as near threatened. That's probably out of date. Oh, that's a shame. So, it's actually endangered now. So I'm on the IUCN Red List website now. Unfortunately, Grey Reef Sharks are endangered, which I did not know before today because it's a Pacific species. So I'm more specialized in Atlantic animals. But let's check out what's going on. What happened to Grey Reef Sharks? So we'll check out the IUCN official assessment statement. The Grey Reef Shark, Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos, is a medium-sized coastal shark that occurs in coral reef habitats in tropical waters of the Indian and Pacific Oceans, from the surface down to a depth of at least 280 meters. The species has relatively low biological productivity. It is caught as target and bycatch through much of its range in industrial and small-scale fisheries using longline, gillnet, handline, and demersal trawls. It is often retained for its fins, flesh, skin, teeth, and liver. The species is also threatened by declines in habitat quality of coral reefs due to climate change, destructive fishing practices, and poor water quality. Steep declines in population abundance have been reported in some parts of its range, while in others it appears to remain at high abundance. Based on baited remote underwater video station data from 254 reefs in 40 jurisdictions throughout its range, the estimated global population reduction is 59% over 3 generation lengths. Therefore, the Grey Reef Shark is estimated to have undergone a population reduction of 50 to 79% over the last 3 generation lengths, due to levels of exploitation, declines in habitat quality, and it is assessed as endangered. So it's been a while since we've seen I feel like it's been a while since we've seen a truly endangered shark species. Again, we've been focusing a lot on deep water or cat shark species, and those can vary from least concern to maybe slightly vulnerable. So it's really sad to see this for the Grey Reef Shark, that it is actually truly endangered. It's especially sad given that a major factor in its endangerment is water temperature, climate change and global warming affecting coral reefs. And specifically, just as a recap, corals are really, really sensitive to changes in water temperature because they have a symbiotic relationship with this kind of algae called zooxanthellae. And if the water temperature gets too warm, the zooxanthellae freak out and they actually leave the coral. And they're actually the thing that gives the coral color, and also provides partially a coral's food, because zooxanthellae synthesize or photosynthesize food. So corals are actually related to sea anemones or jellyfish, so they can actually capture. Some corals can capture food for themselves, like filter feeding, but not filter feeding. What do you call it? It's like, or I guess it's filter feeding. It's like how barnacles, they'll sweep food particles with their fins. It's kind of like jellyfish, how they kind of float through the water and their tentacles capture food. It's the same thing with coral. So coral rely on that method of capturing food, but they also rely on the zooxanthellae for photosynthesis. They need both. And then, so when the zooxanthellae freak out because water temperatures are rising, the coral is losing a vital part of its ability to eat, and it bleaches, it dies, it loses its color, it can't sustain itself, and then what's left is a hard coral skeleton and bleached reefs. And it's really sad that this is a major problem in the world, and it's kind of amazing to see how this affects ultimately the Grey Reef Shark, top-level predator. I know in the very beginning when I started these streams, one of the first questions I ever got was, have you ever seen climate change affect sharks? And I think at that time the answer was, I haven't seen a lot, and I feel like since we started doing these streams, we've learned more and more pretty concrete examples, including this one. The other one I always refer to is bull sharks increasing their range northward on the east coast of North America, where they actually documented pupping in North Carolina, which is unheard of. Bull sharks typically pup in Florida, so it's kind of ridiculous that they're actually breeding and actually having pups further north. It's a huge change in habitat use. So there's a lot of examples of how climate change is affecting sharks, and this is one of them. So, which is very sad to see, but just important to see. Where in this particular case, it's not just a shark that is feeling fishing pressure. It's not just the classic slow growing and slow to reproduce shark that is not handling fishing pressure well. It's a combination of that and a bigger picture issue with global warming and climate change. So I'm going to catch up on the comments because Shark Week contest. Oh yeah, Bibia, sorry. So every Shark Week we will do an art contest, and typically the prizes have been fossil teeth, specifically megalodon teeth or Carcharhinus anguistinus teeth, as well as signed copies of some of my books, and then as well as Sharks of the World. So really cool international shark books, like this one. I think the latest prizes we gave was the brand new edition of Sharks of the World, or the pocket guide of Sharks of the World. So yeah, we will do a new contest this year, and I'm really excited about it. And then also, corals and species depending on it are having a rough time. It will take time before improvement will start. Sad indeed. Absolutely. The good news is corals are also a really popular area of research, and there's actually a lot of programs that are doing a lot of good work trying to save corals. A lot of them are liaison through aquariums, but a lot of marine research institutes also do a lot of coral work where they try to replant corals in different areas. There's been some success stories with that. I know the Virginia Aquarium has a coral program where you can actually see in the building coral rehabilitation, or not rehabilitation, but coral like coral labs, like coral study labs, where you can see how coral grow. And I know a lot of the Florida institutes have a lot of coral reef programs as well. And it's kind of funny. Just shout out to Florida because we're on Florida Museum of Natural History. Florida gets a really, really bad rap as a state, and I can say this because I used to live there, and I think it kind of got worse since I've moved away from there. Like, Florida absolutely gets a bad rap for a state, and probably deservedly so. Actually, definitely deservedly so. However, a lot of great research comes from Florida. Some of the best marine research universities in the world are based in Florida. Moat Marine Lab being one of them in Sarasota. Florida Atlantic University is pretty high up there. University of Florida. A lot of great shark stuff. A lot of great shark work. I mean, it's not a coincidence that a lot of the, shark, like basic shark research that we see, or not research, but basic shark profiles that we see are on the Florida Museum of Natural History website. So just wanted to give a little shout out to Florida. I mean, it's going through a rough period. But, the universities, the focus on marine life, and actually when I used to live there, the coastal areas, at least the ones I lived in, they were very, very explicit about, using paper straws, not disturbing sea turtle nests, very, very vocal on red tide watch. Red tide is a huge problem in Florida, so yeah, there's a consciousness there. There's some kind of environmental consciousness there. So, corals basically have to move to cooler waters, right? And indeed, Florida famous for its universities. Thank you, Bibia. And here's the thing, and this is really tricky, because yes, corals have to move to cooler waters, but can they, with the shift in latitude and the reduction of solar energy? That is a huge issue. Because when you think about it, is like, okay, if I'm a Florida coral, theoretically maybe I can move to Georgia or South Carolina, right? And I'll be okay. But the problem is, Georgia and South Carolina are temperate areas, and they don't get as much solar energy as southern Florida, which is a tropical area. And so, Georgia and South Carolina are going to have more seasonal shifts, like longer dark periods, than Florida. Florida is going to have a relatively stable, solar period. And that's a huge issue because, in tropical zones, the water temperature is becoming way too hot and way too high for corals. And so, they have nowhere to go, because if they go into colder water, well, they're not going to get the solar energy that they need because they are partially photosynthetic. So, and I'm talking about like the reef building corals. We do have, temperate corals. We actually talked about temperate corals on, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We were focusing on species in South Africa, and there were high latitude corals is what they were talking about. High latitude coral reefs for that shark. And I think it was a cat shark that we were, it might have been the salttail cat, one of the salttail cat sharks we were reviewing. But they were talking about high latitude coral reefs. Over here in Virginia, we actually do have a kind of coral, which is called a whip coral, which is really pretty. It's this like really cool purple, thin, wispy coral that I've seen in life, some like in shallow water snorkel areas. So it's really cool. But as far as reef building corals, I don't think they'll be able to move northward because of the lack of solar energy. So it's a very complicated problem. It's very tricky. And so, we'll see what happens. One thing that potentially could be a solution would be, well, can corals retreat to deeper water? But that will help this temperature problem, but that actually might get into the same kind of light problem where, well, if you get into deeper water, you're not getting as much, solar radiation as shallow water, because the deeper you go, the more wavelengths of light are absorbed. So it's a really complicated problem. So I really love the suggestion, though. It was a really, really good point, but it is really complex, though, as far as like what can be done. So let's see. We'll skip geographical distribution. I do want to read about Grey Reef Shark's habitat. So the Grey Reef Shark prefers shallow tropical and subtropical waters near coral atolls and lagoons adjacent to reef habitats. Atolls are really cool, by the way. They're like, if I'm not mistaken, they're kind of like a volcano that subsided, or like a seamount that subsided. So it's kind of like, imagine, if you will, the rim of the volcano is almost touching the surface, and then there's a crater in the middle. So you have this like really cool, I wonder if I can look one up, coral atoll. Because I don't think we've ever really talked about this kind of habitat before, but here it is. So essentially what this is I really don't like the new Google. Do not like this. You used to be able to click on the whole image. But anyway, here is, it's essentially a volcano or a seamount. So this is the rim of the volcano, and then in the center is the crater, if you will. So this is actually deep water in the center, but the rim is actually just made up of this beautiful coral reef. So it's this extremely cool environment where it's like you're coming up from deep water on the outer side, up this slope into a shallow coral ring, and then you can go back into this really cool deep center. So, oops, sorry. Catching up on comments. Sounds logical. Let's hope there are enough corals who can somehow adapt, because Earth is cooling will take time if we change it right now. Yes, agree, Bibia, and I absolutely agree. So hopefully, and I'm curious. I wonder. This is completely out of nowhere. There's no research on this. This is just me truly spitballing. But I actually wonder, coming to this age of AI, AI could do a lot of things, whatever. AI has been lending itself into interesting scientific applications. And we've synthesized the genome, or not synthesized, what do you call it? It's we understand the genome of a lot of different organisms, or have been very close to understanding the genetic structure of a lot of different things. And genetics are tricky because you can understand the genetic code of an animal, but if you change it, you're not going to really exactly know how some of those changes will relate to the other parts of an animal. Where, like, if you change a gene, you might not be able to predict how that gene will interact with an enzyme, how it will interact with a protein, how it interact with other components, and it's just like it's very, very complex. Where I'm going with this is, one thing I'm kind of curious about is it possible to genetically synthesize or genetically alter zooxanthellae to become more temperature resistant? I don't know. And maybe be able to tolerate higher temperatures. And if so, that would be really fascinating. This is also really dangerous because you're tampering with, a natural adaptation, and there's a reason why it's a natural adaptation, is because it works on a very deep level, like it's been successful over eons. So, but I'm just spitballing. Now that we actually have, or like now in this age of the advent of AI, it would be really, really interesting to see what's going to happen as far as can there be solutions like that, like with something as small as zooxanthellae. Can you potentially synthesize a temperature resistant gene, or figure out how to synthesize a temperature resistant gene to kind of help the corresponding coral.
So I don't know.
So I don't know. Kind of interesting question. Hopefully one day coral scientists maybe watch and get the idea. Do it.
We're not.
I don't know, because again it could be just a catastrophic ecological mess. Because again,
if you change something about the belly,
changing something about
coral,
and something about some proteins. It's just compounding mess. But just a thought. I'm curious if there's interesting implications around the corner with the technology that we have. Let's see. So I was talking about the tolls. Grey Reef Shark's depth ranges from 0 to 50 meters. Although more active during the night, Grey Reef Shark sometimes forms schools or loose aggregations during the day that swim close to the bottom, over flats or reef drop-off habitats. Tagging studies show that sharks living near ocean reefs are nomadic and travel along the reef habitat each day. However, the Grey Reef Shark generally has a high sub fidelity and tends to return day after day to the same site. Interesting. So, really cool, socially complex animal. I'm excited to move along. I'm just kind of scrolling through the rest of the Florida Museum of Natural History profile. So, let's see. Really great teeth here. So, a cool diagram of the Grey Reef Shark's teeth. There we go. Males of the species grow up to 185 centimeters, females 190 centimeters. So converting that to feet, so fair sized shark. Six feet, so 6 feet in length. So, food: Grey Reef sharks eat reef fishes, along with smaller quantities of cephalopods, squid and octopus, and crustaceans, shrimp and lobster. They provide the majority of the reef shark's prey. Reef shark prey also include bony fish, including cowfish, surgeonfish, and butterfly fish. Most of the feeding activity occurs at night, which is when the shark is most active. So, let's see. Like other Carcharhinus, Grey Reef Shark is a viviparous species, so live-bearing. Predators of the Grey Reef Shark include larger sharks such as the silver-tip shark, tiger sharks, and the great hammerhead. Interesting. Okay. Beautiful photo of blue cheek butterfly fish. So pretty famous Indo-Pacific reef fish. Very popular with divers. Oh, let me check the comments. We're going to switch to dive notes. So, here we go. Alright, we're going to check out Andy Merck's website, sharksandrays.com. So, I love this website as far as... it's really cool to see something that is not repeating the same information, but just offers a new lens. So, this website is fantastic for shark diving. So, kind of understanding how a shark behaves specifically in a dive setting. So, this is their profile on the Grey Reef Shark, Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos. So, common names again: Grey Reef Shark, or Grey Whaler. Beautiful photograph of this species. So, this individual is probably in the Pacific, as opposed to the Indian Ocean or the Red Sea, because you don't see a silver tip. Apparently the Red Sea and Indian Ocean populations have a slight silver margin on their first dorsal fin, but you do see the black edging of the caudal fin here. So again, classic sharky shark. Beautiful photograph by Andy. Conservation status is updated, so endangered, saying that the Grey Reef Shark is heavily targeted and caused bycatch throughout much of its range. Also been impacted by reef degeneration due to climate change, dynamite fishing, and runoff. So this is horrible. Dynamite fishing is a mix of... dynamite fishing, I guess, is for... what do you call it? I guess it's like harvesting fish specifically for consumption. But there's also weird fishing practices for collecting aquarium fish, like wild aquarium fish. or wild fish for private aquarium collections. This is why I don't like private aquarium collections. Typically, or almost always, just because I wonder where that fish came from. A lot of Pacific fish are bred, where the shop is holding them. So, like for example, in a lot of cases, clownfish in North America are actually bred in North America. So it's not like they're continually being supplied by the Indo-Pacific. But it's hard to keep track of who's actually breeding them and who's actually sourcing them from fishermen in these areas who are. Dynamite fishing can't possibly apply to that, but I'm thinking of what do you call it? Chloroform fishing, or is it there's some kind of chemical fishing, or is it arsenic fishing? It's like some fishermen, and this is more in the 2000s, would apply some kind of chemical to a reef to daze the fish, stun the fish, and collect them for the aquarium trade. And it's just so destructive. For every successful fish that is shipped to a aquarium dealer, there's 10 fish that die. It's really, really awful. So sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent, but just this note on dynamite fishing just made me think about that. So really, really sad. Not a big fan of private aquarium collections for this reason. So if it's a private collection of a well-maintained domestic organism, maybe, depending on your local laws. One animal that might do well in aquaria that I can think of is a seahorse. And I'm thinking of local animals that live where I am in Virginia and Chesapeake Bay. We actually do have seahorses. That's an animal that has a very small range and is fairly easy to maintain as far as they like brine shrimp. They're very popular in public aquariums. They don't need to migrate. They live in their natural setting. They live in a very restricted home range. So, but yeah, I don't know. Just kind of rambling. Sorry, but. Although major declines have been reported in some areas, Grey Reef sharks are still locally abundant in areas where they are protected, such as in French Polynesia. So I'm not sure if French Polynesia has marine protected areas, but if they do, that's really awesome, and it shows the benefit of a marine protected area. These areas are restricted to fishing, and they create a safe haven for fishes to grow, and in so doing, they kind of are like a what do you call it? They reinvigorate surrounding waters and actually yield better catches for surrounding waters. So if you're fishing near one, not in one, but near one, you actually are going to get better fish because there's a portion that it's adjacent to a marine protected area where fish are allowed to grow to their full extent and yield or reproduce as much as they can and actually have larger litters or what was that? What? Litters or I heard a weird noise. I don't know if that was just me. Litters or larvae. There you go. So, Bruce, welcome back. Welcome back. So, sorry, a lot of comments here. So I'm just need to catch up on these. So, iconic Sharky Shark. Dynamite fishing, yeah, really sad. It's wild. It's been a while since we talked about the 70s movie Jaws, but dynamite fishing was actually featured very briefly in Jaws. So, nothing boils me more than dynamite fishing, especially the ones who do it for sport. Absolutely insane. Agreed. Oh, Bruce, seahorses do terribly in aquariums. Interesting. I haven't heard of that because I've seen a lot of successful ones. So Virginia Living Museum has seahorses. Virginia Aquarium has seahorses too. But I'm curious. Please let me know, or please tell me more about is it a specific kind of seahorse? Because the ones that I'm referring to are lined seahorses. Is Hippocampus erectus. So actually, let's look that up because I'm very curious about that. A clutches. Thank you. Yep. So it's definitely Monday. So hold on. How do seahorses do in captivity? Because I always thought they were easy, but it could be a species thing. Seahorses do well in captivity when provided specific conditions and careful management. They generally thrive in a well-maintained, stable aquarium environment. Because like their natural, their natural. The reason why I suspect they do well is because like they naturally their home range is just so small, and they stick to shallow water seagrass beds or like little reefs. But here we go. Reddit says they are extremely hard to keep in aquarium. First off, they need very stable water quality. Like any changes, and they die. Okay, so as far as a seahorse's life history, an aquarium might be okay, but you have to get it just right, or they're very sensitive if you get it wrong. So that might be what you're referring to. So as far as like a seahorse's total life history, it might be a fit for an aquarium because it makes sense given that it's not a large migratory fish, but you have to get it just right because it's a sensitive fish, kind of like anchovies. Anchovies are extremely sensitive. Like the joke is anchovies die when you stare at them the wrong way. Like they're really, really vulnerable. Bruce, their lack of power means they can get easily stuck in the aquarium filters, and they are sensitive to changes in water quality. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Ooh, so I'm going to redact that statement then about seahorses, and I will replace them with killifish. Killifish are hardy as heck, so we'll say killifish maybe work in that kind of setting. So, because like mummy chugs, banded killifish, those fish can survive incredible conditions. Rainwater killifish, we'll just stick to that. So, oof, yeah. Bruce Davison, like panda, they do not reproduce offspring in captivity. Really interesting. I'm really shocked by that actually, because I thought there was like so many examples of successful seahorse breeding programs. So maybe they just because Virginia Aquarium, Virginia Living Museum, Virginia Aquarium, and then Virginia Sea Marine Science, they all had seahorse tanks. But maybe they all got it right, and maybe I'm just kind of like seeing it. It's kind of like, how do I say it? I'm probably just seeing repeated success and thinking, oh, it's easy, and then like maybe it's not. So thank you for clarifying that, because I honestly did not know with seahorses. So one thing I do know is many sharks don't do well, just because, and even the big ones that are popular. I mean, even though they on paper do well, where like sand tigers and sandbars do well, in their life history they need to migrate. So it's very weird to kind of have them in this like tank for like just ever, and it's just like I have mixed feelings when I see them, because on the one hand it's really cool, and especially sand tiger sharks are critically endangered, so it's great to have them and kind of have a breeding program which does help that species. That is a concentrated or concerted effort to try to keep the genetic pool diversified. But on the other hand, I mean, it's not really what they naturally should be doing. They should be naturally covering a huge range. So, but anyway, moving back to Andy, or the Sharks and Rays website by Andy Merck. Let's see. We talked about most of this already, so behavior is what I really wanted to get to. The Grey Reef Shark is a highly social species that is often seen in large polarized groups, swimming slowly upstream in current swept passes of atolls or reef channels by day. At night, individuals leave the group to hunt alone on nearby reefs and drop-offs. The Grey Reefs show a high degree of site fidelity, sometimes venturing quite far offshore, but always returning to the same spot to rest. In some areas, they may undergo migrations, perhaps in search of food or to mate. One individual tagged at a remote island of the Coral Sea traveled 250 kilometers to the Great Barrier Reef and back. When threatened, Grey Reef sharks perform an agonistic threat display by lowering their pectoral fins, arching their backs, and swimming in an exaggerated manner. Reaction to divers. Quite easy to approach with non-threatening movements, especially when they are habituated to the presence of divers. Interesting. Diving logistics. Although the numbers have declined, Grey Reef sharks are still abundant in many areas, too numerous to list here. Okay. So that's actually hopeful. Oh my gosh, Bruce, love this comment by the way. Experts can handle them well, and they can be kept easily. For those less experienced, is a nightmare. Gotcha. Um, and then Bibia, I love this comment. In my opinion, seahorses and others should only be handled by experts. So, well said. Yeah, because like I remember I helped with a saltwater tank. It didn't have seahorses, but it had clownfish, and that was really really tricky to get started because you had to get, what do we have to do? It's like you had to get all the water chemistry correct, like the pH, um, the salinity, the calcium carbonate content. Like there's so much you had to get correct on the chemistry side, and then biologically you had to make sure you used a special kind of set of rocks or like not corals, but like a set of rocks with a certain kind of bacteria that you know you wanted to create a good microbiome to kind of start to get that ecosystem going. I think we then put snails in, hermit crabs in, and after a while of all of those animals playing alone, that's when we started to do clownfish. And I think we had a couple fake anemones before we introduced a live anemone, and we did it, which is great. But it's really really tricky to get an ecosystem going. So it's really interesting about seahorses because I thought it would be simpler than that, but definitely mistaken on that. So I guess that's actually credit to the 3 aquariums I mentioned earlier, like Virginia Living Museum, Virginia Aquarium, and Virginia Institute of Marine Science. They all have pretty good seahorse tanks, so it looks like they know what they're doing, which is good. Perhaps the most spectacular place to encounter gray reef sharks is in the south pass of Fakarava Atoll in the Tuamotu archipelago in French Polynesia. At this location, it is possible to descend approximately 12 meters and hover or rest on the reef rubble at the side of the pass to watch the show. On a good day, it is not unreasonable to see 300 to 400 gray reef sharks swimming slowly up current through the pass. Being nocturnal hunters, this is their rest period during which they do very little other than keeping pace with the rest of the school. I think one of the clips that we had was showing this. It's not this one. This is like a baited setting. It's not this one. Is it this one? This might be that behavior because these sharks are swimming very slowly, and I feel like the footage might be slowed down a little bit. But this must be the behavior because this is diurnal, so this is happening in the daytime, and the sharks are just kind of floating, cruising, and that maybe this footage isn't really slowed down. Maybe this is just the sharks just drifting against the current, and in that sense hovering, kind of like a bird over I can't speak today. A draft of air. I don't know what I'm saying. A bird over, like a column of air. So great footage, by the way. Beautiful shot. Actually, you can see the silver tips on the first dorsal fin. So again, that would be an Indian or Red Sea kind of gray reef shark, most likely. Beautiful footage. And again, great dive opportunity. Imagine just kind of sitting there watching these animals peacefully, just kind of stay motionless in the water. One thing that I'm pleasantly surprised to learn is that this is not as dangerous of a shark as I kind of grew up believing it to be, really, because what we're seeing is that we're reaffirming that it does do the exaggerated swimming, it does do the agonistic swim behavior, but these are pretty, apparently when we're kind of reading these different accounts, it's saying that they're actually pretty easy to approach, or they are pretty comfortable with divers. And even though they've been implicated in 8 shark attacks, that's actually really not that much compared to a lot of other shark species. For example, sand tiger sharks have been implicated in 30 shark attacks. So, and that's a really docile species that has nothing to do with, no intention of harming someone, really. So, This is actually a pretty. This shark is far more chilled than I realized. I have to double check. There was footage of a shark going after a spear fisherman in the Indo-Pacific, and I thought it was a gray reef shark, but I have to double check that footage now. Maybe it was something like a different species. So. Occasionally, reef fish will catch a shark's interest, and then all the surrounding sharks will zip in to see if there's anything to eat, but they soon return to the slow progression up current. Mixed in with gray reef sharks, there are usually a few silver tips and one or two shy oceanic black tips. Interesting. Down on the floor of the channel, you can usually spot 20 or 30 white-tipped reef sharks resting on the bottom, facing into the current to help them breathe. If the current isn't too strong from the end of the dive, it is possible to drift into a shallow spot where black-tipped reef sharks hang out, hoping for scraps from fishermen. The entire atoll is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is heavily protected from any form of fishing, so the reef is extremely abundant and very few of the sharks have hooks or hook scars. Fakarava is unquestionably one of the best places in the world to encounter large numbers of reef sharks. Beautiful. So, there's, incredible photographs here of this amazing animal. And it's exciting to see how many of them. It's really especially encouraging to see this is an endangered species, and let's see. Oh, gotcha. Sorry, it's a really cool comment. So, Bruce, was I the only one who initially heard the name and mistook the name for the sand tiger? I swear I read somewhere that sand tigers are also called gray reef. So Howard is right. They are called gray nurse sharks. And this is why the scientific names are so important, because it's like you have gray reef shark, gray nurse shark, and nurse shark. And these are three completely different orders, so which is kind of wild. So, but you are right, Howard, that gray nurse sharks is what the Australians call sand tiger sharks. And then gray reef shark, I think that is the common English name both in Australia and in the United States for this species. So gray reef shark is Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos, it's a carcharhinoform. Gray nurse shark is a sand tiger shark, so that's Carcharhinus taurus, a lamniform. And then the nurse shark is Gigglomystoma serratum, that's a erectolobiform. So three completely different sharks, but the English names are sometimes really terrible because they overlap so easily. So the one that really gets me, I've mentioned it before, is when they call cat sharks dogfish. A lot of people do that, and that really frustrates me because those are two completely different orders. But like they'll call chain cat sharks chain dogfish. It's like, no, it's not. It's a cat shark. They'll call dusky smoothhounds smooth dogfish, and that's just not what it is. So. Really great photos from Andy. So we'll keep going and we'll start to kind of dive into some more research. I'm just gonna... Oh, this is interesting. Just kind of scanning through for any additional pieces of information. Frequently found on the leeward side of small coral islands. Interesting. So, this is an active, strong-swimming social species that forms daytime aggregation in reef passes and lagoons. At night, the groups disperse. Groups of juveniles remain together on pupping grounds. Disposition. Gray reef sharks are inquisitive and in seldom frequented areas. Divers have been approached very close by several of these sharks, particularly when they initially enter the water. However, once the shark's curiosity is satisfied, they usually retreat and remain at a distance. Feeding. When feeding stimuli are present, the shark may be aggressive and dangerous. What to watch out for? This species will perform a threat display when approached too closely or startled by unusual sounds or quick movements. Display consists of an exaggerated swimming pattern in which a shark wags its head and tail in broad sweeps, arches its back, lifts its head, depresses its pectoral fins, and sometimes swims in a horizontal spiral or figure 8 loop in front of its perceived aggressive. The threat may terminate in a high-speed attack. Interesting. So, I just read this from Shark Research Institute. Usually these species profiles are very small, so it's actually a lot more information than I was expecting. This is really cool. This is the original description of a gray reef shark. pretty normal. I love that the original description from 1904 still retains this classic shark look. So interesting. Beautiful illustration by, I think it was Mark Dando still. Indicating the silver tip on the first dorsal fin, the beautiful black caudal margins, and then the black margins on the second dorsal and anal fin as well. A lot of cool images. Nice little depiction of the jaws. So these are actually pretty interesting teeth because the top ones are quite a bit more narrow. So they're not like these large triangular teeth that some Carcharhinus have. These are actually a little bit more narrow, so this really highly indicates a fish-eating diet. Mondo, welcome back. Good to see you, and actually love your new icon. This looks different, so super cool to see you. Welcome back. Oh, Bibia, are we sure Grey Reef Shark is not a dog shark? Oh my goodness. Love it. Let's see. Oh gosh, Dr. Jaws, aren't you glad your name is not Dr. Beetle? You'd be very buzzy if so. Oh my goodness, yep. That would be problematic. So let's see. Oh, Save Our Seas. This is cool. Actually, I remember this website, the Save Our Seas Foundation. May have some new tidbits of information for Grey Reef Sharks, so let's just check this out. Gonna skim through anything that we've read before. I think a lot of this is a beautiful photo, by the way. Really great photo of a little Grey Reef Shark. So, really gorgeous. Grey Reef Sharks gather in groups during the day, where they reside in reef passes and shallow lagoons. At night, these groups disperse as the sharks descend onto the reef itself to hunt. It is also a popular species in aquaria and is exported from Australia and Indonesia for this purpose. Given its association with coral reef habitat, the Grey Reef Shark is also vulnerable to climate change, poor water quality, destructive fishing. There we go, such as blast fishing and cyanide fishing. So that's what I was trying to name earlier, cyanide fishing. That's what it is. So again, this is for reef fish collection. So this is like drugging fish to make them slower, and people will scoop them up and try to ship them or sell them in the aquarium trade. Is awful. Really, really awful practice. Already read this, but just as a summary, Grey Reef Sharks are naturally inquisitive and will investigate divers. They can be aggressive, especially if food is present, but generally considered safe to dive with as long as precautions are taken. Conservation. The Grey Reef Shark is quite a valuable species to dive tourism, and as such, fishing is regulated in some places such as Queensland, Australia. Marine protected areas are also common to conserve coral reef habitats, and by association, the Grey Reef Shark is protected by general management measures. Similarly, Grey Reef Sharks benefit from shark sanctuaries in some parts of their range, where targeted shark fishing is banned to promote recovery. And it looks like this is some cool footage. Nice shot of a reef drop-off. Yeah, Grey Reef Sharks just being here, so it's very short but really pretty. One more time. Amazing dive opportunities. Probably one of the best best diving footage that we've seen. We already talked about the threat display and the the Grey Reef Shark tagged in Coral Sea, reaching the Great Barrier Reef, so traveling 250 kilometers, so it's pretty impressive. Let's see, so let's look at some research. And I want to see if there's anything related to shark fidelity, or sorry, site fidelity. like this. I'm actually kind of curious about this. So, you know what? We could probably cover at least all of the abstracts because I'm very, very curious about what we can learn. So let's start with this one. Abiotic drivers of the space use and activity of gray reef sharks, Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos, in a dynamic tidal environment. This is by Anai Leroux, Charlie Huveniers, Yanis Papastamatio, Sergei Planes, Laurent Ballesta, and then Johan Mourier. I apologize if I mispronounce this, but here we go. Predators display rhythms and behavior in habitat use, often with the goal of maximizing foraging success. The underlying mechanisms behind these rhythms are generally linked to abiotic conditions related to diel, lunar, and seasonal cycles. To understand their effects on the space use, activity, and swimming depth of gray reef sharks, we tagged 38 individuals with depth and accelerometer sensors in a French Polynesian atoll channel exposed to a strong tidal flow and monitored them over a year. Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos used a larger space during nighttime and were more active at night and during outgoing currents. Shark activity also peaked during the full and new moons, so that's really cool. Because the full moon and the new moon, they both have a huge effect on the tide, where they will amplify the tidal range. When you're in a waning gibbous, or no, it's not waning gibbous, sorry, first quarter or third quarter moon, it's kind of the most calm. It's the lowest tidal range, but when you get to the full moon or the new moon, it actually does have an impact on the tides, where it will have a stronger pull and you'll have a larger tidal range. So it's really cool that actually has an effect. And I honestly think it's amazing as far as like mythology. There's a lot of mythology surrounding moons. A lot of cool like spiritual stuff revolving the moon. So it's really cool to think about like the dark moon or the full moon having an effect on the presence or absence of gray reef sharks. So it's really, really cool stuff. The swimming depth of sharks is mostly influenced by diel cycles, with sharks swimming deeper during the day compared to nighttime. The dynamic energy scape may promote the emergence of discrete behavioral strategies in reef sharks that use a south channel of Fakarava for resting and foraging purposes. So this is the same habitat that Andy Merck, SharksArrays.com, elasmo diver, this is the same habitat that he was talking about as far as a great dive site for gray reef sharks. Turbulence imposed by outgoing tides induces additional foraging cost on sharks, shifting their hunting areas to the southern part of the channel where turbulence is less pronounced. Understanding when and where sharks are active and foraging is important for understanding of predator-prey dynamics and ecosystem dynamics. This study highlights how abiotic rhythms in a highly dynamic environment likely generate spatiotemporal heterogeneity in the distribution of predation pressure. So, really cool study. Mondremondo, I'm always curious why reef sharks are able to hide their teeth inside their gums. You notice how mako and great whites always have their teeth exposed, but reef sharks keep theirs out of sight. Do you know why? Maybe an evolutionary advantage. That is an excellent question. Because I have noticed that for other Carcharhinus, but I've never ever learned why that happens. There's actually a lot of and Howard just saw your comment. Agreed. Nice jaw prep for the teeth that we saw earlier. I never really knew, and actually, let's see if we can find some photographs showing this, just to kind of better illustrate what we're talking about. Because I know exactly what you're describing, and it is very strange. We need a close-up of the sharks. Let's see how close we can get here. Oops. We just need a close-up of the shark's lower jaw. But to answer your question, I'm with Howard. I actually have no idea why they do that, but I do know what you're talking about. And it's not just gray reef sharks. There's other sharks that do that same behavior or have that same adaptation. So let's just Google shark hiding teeth and gums. Trying to find, these are really dumb photos. Let's try lemon shark teeth. Or lemon shark. Because I think I've seen this in lemon sharks. No, that's not it. I have to get back to you, Mondo, because I know exactly what you're talking about. Because there were a couple, I remember there's a couple famous shark photos that show that phenomenon, where like the teeth seem kind of weirdly flush with like the mouth. It's not like the mouth is covering them. It's like the mouth is or the lower jaw is like enclosing them, and I'm not sure why really. So I have to get back to you on that. So. Bibia, abiotic. So, abiotic meaning non-living. So, biotic factors, like biology means life. So, biotic factors would be the presence of a predator or absence of a predator. Abiotic is non-living. So, it would be like, you know, the lunar cycle is an abiotic factor. As a terrestrial example, like your elevation is an abiotic factor. The presence or absence of a mountain lion is a biotic factor. But I hope that helps. Like the presence or absence of a certain kind of plant as a food source is biotic, but the presence or absence of a mineral is abiotic because it's abiotic is like without life. It's not alive. So. And yes, 1 to 6 pups is not much. Problematic when you're endangered. Absolutely. And then, Mondo is right. I know what Mondo is talking about. It's really interesting. It's this weird thing where the teeth are kind of like almost enclosed by the. I really wish I could find it actually. So. Yeah. Oh no, you're good, baby. Yeah, you're good. Let's see. Let's take Carcharhinus Lucas. It's such a weird thing. Is this it? This might be getting close to it. Yeah, this actually might be it. Ah, shoot. Okay. You see these like little grooves? Like these are not teeth. These are like these little like slits or these grooves. It's really weird. Because like here the teeth are clearly exposed, right? You know, so here's a bull shark. You know, just kind of with clearly exposed teeth. So you can find another photo. I mean, here the teeth are clearly exposed, so they're right there. You know, everybody can see them, but you can see. Okay, this is actually a great photo showing this. Okay, so the upper jaw, the teeth are clearly exposed. This is a fantastic bull shark photo, by the way. But look at the lower jaw. You see these like flaps of skin that are kind of like indentations. Like they have these like little pockets, if you will. Like, isn't that weird? And Mondo raises a really great question. Why does this exist? And why would you need to protect your teeth? Like as a shark who can expend teeth, you know, it is a very interesting, weird feature. Like this kind of like tooth sheath, you know. I don't know what this is for, really. And no one's ever asked me that question before, so that's a great question, Mondo. This is one example too. Because it's always bothered me in illustrations, you know, because a lot of shark artists will include this. This is a great example too. You can see these like little indentations, right? But I'm not sure where that comes from. So, or like what the purpose is. So, great question. Also, really cool to draw attention to it for bull sharks because I mean this is a species that I'm personally extremely familiar with, and I've actually never ever been able to like kind of identify that particular feature or why it exists. So here's a great photograph of a bull shark head on. Whoops, come on. There we go. Can we zoom in? No, I can't. Can I just do that? Okay. Shoot. Okay, so I guess we'll zoom in. It's these little grooves right here. These are not teeth. They're kind of like sheaves or slits, you know? And they could be tooth protectors, but it's also kind of like why, you know, because like why would a shark need to protect its teeth? I get why a shark protects its eyeball, which is a very vulnerable, sensitive organ, or not organ, a vulnerable, sensitive part of its body that can be damaged permanently. But the teeth, I mean, you know, they're made out of the same material as hair and fingernails, like keratin, so they could be shed very easily. So you don't really need to protect it. So, Roy, it could be for gripping onto prey easier. Great point. Howard, monster bull shark, absolutely. Let's see. Howard, cartilage itself is more flexible than bone and may be flexible enough to allow the teeth to protrude the jaw at a certain angle. Interesting. Aerodynamic reasons the high teeth. As an example of hidden teeth. Could be for gripping onto prey easier. I love these answers. They're so cool. It's kind of cool how they only unsheathe their teeth when taking a bite, but otherwise are hidden. I actually kind of like the aerodynamic theory, but I don't know if that works either because, I mean, those teeth are so sharp that you would think that it doesn't matter, you know, as far as like if a shark is swimming open-mouthed. I don't know. I mean, that's really, really great. And then Mundermano, great point. The fastest shark, Mako, doesn't hide their teeth. So it can't be aerodynamics then because, yeah, it's the fastest shark in the world. So, man. That is a great question. That's a good stumper, actually. I'm trying to... So... Okay, I guess it is for hydrodynamics, and just because you get new teeth doesn't necessarily mean you are not careful with them. That's fair. So I'm trying to think, you know, a bull shark's... How does a bull shark use its mouth, right? Bull shark, you know, is a generalist feeder, so it eats large prey items. So it could include, like, marine mammals, mostly fish, carrion, like just stuff like that. It does bite into female bull shark. Male bull sharks will bite female bull sharks' pectoral fins, but like we've been saying, other sharks don't have this adaptation. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's just an evolutionary quirk for this family. It could be. I almost wonder, is this something related to perhaps mating when male sharks will bite onto female sharks' fins to hold them into position while they mate? And is this a way to safely do that without completely ripping off a female shark's fin? So it could be that. The only problem with that theory is that every shark does this, and not every shark has these tooth covers. Like great whites famously don't have these. So I don't know. That's a really, really good question. Why? And I don't even know what to call this feature, to be honest. So let's see if we could get this. Anatomy of a shark's mouth. Also, please let me know what sharks you would like to cover next week. Let's see. Let's see if we could find anything on this. Let's try this diagram. Nasal capsule, forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. Preorbitalis mussels. It's not gonna have that. It's not labial furrows, because that's like the corners of the mouth. I promise we only spend a little bit of time on this. This is a really good teaser, like kind of brain teaser. I'm actually very curious about this now. Excuse me. As a suggestion for next week, ooh, actually we could do another an Aperturus australis. We could do another demon cat shark. So that's a good idea, Bibia. Mundermundo, I'd love to see more uncommon sharks. Cat sharks okay too, or hounds. Yes, so deep water cat sharks definitely are uncommon. And I'm going to throw a curveball in here too, because I don't think we've covered all the hammerheads. Let's see. Ooh, Mundermundo, I think Mikos do have pockets in their mouths that do help hide their elongated teeth, similar to crocodiles, which helps them swim more efficiently, though I could be wrong.
I think we did cover that.
That's a really cool point, Roy.
I want to look up
hammerheads and double check which hammerheads were covered, because I feel like I'm missing one. We could definitely do Aperturus, but I'm actually kind of curious. We were talking about hammerheads earlier. If there is potentially a hammerhead not covered yet. And if we haven't them all, we're close to covering them all. Let's see. Okay. We did the bonnet head. We did the great hammerhead. We did the wing head. We did the small eye hammerhead. We did the Carolina hammerhead. I forgot that we did that one, actually. Okay. So we actually have a couple ones. White body cat shark from Howard. Have we done the smooth hammer? I thought we did do the smooth hammerhead. That would be a really cool one to do, actually. I thought we did do that one recently. Because I'm pretty sure I got I might not have added it to the playlist, but I'm pretty sure I got super excited about covering smooth hammerheads. What is this? Carolina hammerhead. Oh, I guess we didn't do a smooth hammerhead. I'm shocked by that, actually. We did do the smooth hammerhead. I didn't add it to the playlist. We have done one, so... Okay. But we do have Sierra Corona, Scalp Bonnethead, but there's actually a lot of great suggestions here. So, white body cat shark. Let's see what that one is. Aperturus albosoma. Ooh. Actually, you know what? Let's start with that. So that's actually a great idea, because Bibia wanted to cover demon cat shark Aperturus. Howard just named a demon cat shark as well. So let's do a new one. And I think white body cat shark might be a lot of fun. So let's do straight tooth weasel shark. Let's do... I guess we could take a vote. Let me double check who straight tooth weasel shark is. Man, there's so many. It's so cool how many sharks exist. This is Paragil. Ooh, Paragilus tengi would be a really cool one, and it is endangered. So, Aperturus always good. Okay, so we should probably do a playlist. So let's do the following in this order. So, Pinocchio Shark. Let's do the white body cat shark, Aperturus albosoma, and then we can refer to the other ones next week. So straight tooth weasel shark or the scalped bonnethead. That one would be kind of fun. It's funny because there's a scalped hammerhead and then there's a classic bonnethead, so you wouldn't think there's a scalped bonnethead, but there is, and it's a completely different species. But next week's shark will be Aperturus albosoma, the white body cat shark. So thank you both, Howard Care and Bibia666. I think that's a great... good night, Roy. It's good to see you. Hope you have a great week. I think this is a great combined choice. So, white body cat shark. Okay, awesome. And actually, to answer your suggestion, Bibia, I think you or someone said this. Okay, yeah, it was Bibia. An episode where shark family tree is phylogenetically explained. I'd be curious about it. Yes, and actually, I'm going to put this in too. Add phylogenetics. Tree Kashino et al. 2015. Okay. So I'm going to make this note for myself because every time I prep for a new stream, I do look at the end of the old stream just to make sure I'm absolutely sure which species we're covering. But there's this extremely cool paper, but it's so good that I can even recall the name off the top of my head. Kashino et al. 2015. This was this amazing phylogenetic chart, grouping all the sharks together and splitting them into, it's like this beautiful circle tree where you can see the different branches and see how they all split off. The big thing that I would like to see next week, as we kind of go through shark phylogeny, is squalomorphs versus galeomorphs. Those are the two big... yes, so Bibia, and I'll give more information, probably not next week, but as we get closer to July, I'll have more information for the Shark Week contest. All viewers can participate, and I'll have more information, specific rules, deadlines, and what the contest will be. So for the past 2 years, we've had 2 contests. The winner also designs the banner for the channel. So I originally had a specific... this info is always in flux, yeah. We had the first banner was this like really cool illustration by Howard depicting shark biodiversity. Biodiversity was the theme. The second banner, I forget what we actually did for the theme, but it's this like really great banner by I can't believe Mingus. There we go. Mingus made that banner, and actually Mingus made my current logo, which is really cool. So it will be, the Shark Week contest is usually a banner contest, so it's this really cool piece of art, and there's usually a theme with it. So we'll create a theme for this year, and I have one in mind, but I will reveal that as we get closer to the Shark Week date. So, yeah. Oh yes, and sorry, I was talking about this, about the phylogenetic tree. So squalomorphs and galeomorphs, these are the 2 major branches of sharks, and that was a concept that I learned later in life, because I always was raised on the 8 orders of sharks. Now I guess there's 9 orders if you count the echinodermiforms. But there's actually these 2 major branches, so we'll cover them for next week. So, and yeah. So to Howard's point about the contest, so the one contest that we always have is the Shark Week banner contest. That always happens, but the rest of the contests are kind of chaotic, where sometimes we'll do a holiday contest, sometimes we'll do just a random fossil contest. It just happens. It's kind of fun. It's like, as far as I do like the randomness of it. But we'll definitely have a Shark Week contest for this year. So So more info to come as we get closer to Shark Week 2025. I'll have more info in terms of what we do. It will definitely be a really cool piece of artwork submission. So more info to come. We have 10 minutes left, so I do want to scroll through some more Grey Reef Shark research. This one, like a rolling stone, colonization and migration dynamics of the Grey Reef Shark, by Pierre Lesturgy, Cameron de Braun, Eric Cloua, Joanne Murier, same researcher from the other paper, Simon R. Thorold, Thomas Vignald, Sergei Planes, and Stefano Mona. So, designing appropriate management plans requires knowledge of both the dispersal ability and what has shaped the current distribution of the species under consideration. Here we investigated the evolutionary history of the endangered Grey Reef Shark, Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos, across its range by sequencing thousands of RAD-seq loci, so genetics, in 173 individuals in the Indo-Pacific. We first bring evidence of the occurrence of a range expansion, RE, originating close to the Indo-Australian archipelago, where two stepping stone waves, east and westward, colonized almost the entire Indo-Pacific. So that's actually really cool. Coalescent modeling additionally highlighted homogeneous connectivity throughout the range, and isolation by distance model suggesting the absence of barriers to dispersal despite the affinity of Carcharhinus amblyrhynchos to coral reefs. This coincides with long-distance swims previously recorded, suggesting that strong genetic structures at the IP scale is a consequence of its broad current distribution and organization in a large number of demes. So this is a lot of complex jargon, if you will, but what this is essentially saying is like, wow, for a shark that likes to spend a lot of its time at a specific coral reef, it has a pretty large range, and it has a pretty large, swimming range. Like, it can cover a pretty great distance. And with that, it's allowed the species to colonize different coral reefs over a very large area across the Indo-Pacific. And so even though individual Grey Reef Sharks like to stick to a specific kind of reef, the species does span a large enough range where there's been a lot of opportunity for genetic mixing, like breeding across different reefs. Our results strongly suggest that management plans for the Grey Reef Shark should be designed on a range-wide rather than a local scale due to its continuous genetic structure. We further contrasted these results with those obtained previously for the sympatric but strictly lagoon-associated Carcharhinus melanopterus, so this is the blacktip reef shark, known for its restricted dispersibility. The blacktip reef shark exhibits a similar RE dynamic, but is characterized by a stronger genetic structure and a non-homogeneous connectivity largely dependent on local coral reefs availability. This sheds new light on shark evolution, emphasizing the roles of IAA as a source of biodiversity and of life history traits in shaping the extent of genetic structure and diversity. So I hope they have some cool diagrams of this. It's probably hard to kind of model, but... I'm just kind of skimming through. I know it's almost 11, but... yeah, not an easy way to really model this. So I do want to hop back to the other paper, which was the abiotic one, talking about how cycles of the moon affect Grey Reef Shark behavior. Okay, so this is cool. There we go. This is actually a really cool visual. So the researchers were studying this area in this is the South Pass of the Fakarava, South Pass of Fakarava, Tetamanu, and these little circle areas are acoustic arrays. So these are receivers to pick up sharks that might be in the area. So this is a cool setup. When a shark swims by this, it will ping on the receiver. And so with that, you get this really cool model. of these abiotic factors. So you have daytime versus nighttime. You have the tide coming in and the tide going out. So when it's daytime and the tide is coming in, the sharks are moving into the atoll. And, there's some of them. When the tide is coming in and it's nighttime, there's a higher concentration of these sharks moving into the atoll. So there's more activity at night. When the tide is going out, there is a pretty large concentration of sharks during daytime moving out of the atoll. And then at night, a larger concentration of sharks moving out of the atoll as well. So it's really cool to see that the sharks are moving with the tides. And a lot of sharks do that across the world. One funny thing, tying it all together, I was fortunate enough to interact with a bonnethead shark in Cape Fear River, North Carolina, at Bald Head Island. And the bonnethead shark was following the tides as it was kind of swimming around the mouth of the Cape Fear River. I don't know if I have that video. I'm going to see if I can search for that. Well, I don't... Is there a way I could search for this without kind of... don't want you to see my stuff? No, there's no way I could search for this. It's going to share too much personal information. Okay, I'll have to find that video. But I had a lot of fun with a bonnethead shark that was swimming in extremely shallow water, and it was following the tides. The shark was following prey items that were concentrating at the mouth of the Cape Fear River in North Carolina. So Bald Head Island is a really cool place to interact with a lot of wildlife, so highly recommend it if you ever travel to North Carolina in the future. It's a particularly really cool location. So interesting chart of spatiotemporal dynamics of the Grey Reef Shark activity, acceleration, and depth. A is partial effect plot of acceleration model according to lunar phases. So it looks like the shark is really a lot more active during the full moon, not as active in the quarter moons, and then more active in the new moon. Partial effects of time of day and tidal cycle and shark activity. So a lot of activity at night. Tide is coming in. Decrease in activity during daytime, tide is going out. Depth, this is really interesting. So the shark is in... seems to be not modeled correctly. Unless this is referring to... because I feel like the sharks typically stay in deep water during the daytime and the shallow water during night. So this seems a little strange how that's modeled. But overall, it's really cool to see this. One more model and then I think we'll call it a day. So, I'm sorry, Howard. Oh my gosh, sorry. I am so sorry. I just saw your comment. No, I meant Flux bibia because of phylogenetics of sharks is constantly under review. I am so sorry. I thought you were talking about the contest information in Flux. So my apologies, Howard. I really appreciate that. So Flux because, and actually since 2015, the genetics has changed significantly. Tiger sharks are their own family. Sand tigers are also their own family. Many shark species, including the Carolina hammerhead, have split from classics. So thank you, Howard. I'm so sorry. I thought you meant like the contest information was in Flux. So I appreciate that. I mean, the contest information is in Flux all the time, so that would have been totally valid, but I actually really appreciate that. That makes a lot more sense, so, oh my goodness, so, let's see, wow, 37 degrees Celsius is very warm water, yes, so, let me convert that to Fahrenheit really quick, because that sounds extremely warm. And, okay, Celsius to Fahrenheit. I am so sorry that we use Fahrenheit. I don't know why we do. It's stupid. It's a stupid, stupid measurement. Okay. 37. Wow, yeah, that's actually really hot. So it's 99 degrees Fahrenheit for water temperature. That's did that show up here? Let me look for that. Um, that would be extremely hot for the ocean. That would be actually horrifying, unless it was a very shallow water environment. So, um, yeah. Oh hey, Samarth, welcome. It's really sad. Like we usually end at 11, but you're more than welcome to join us. Let us know if you have any shark questions. We were just wrapping up the stream on the Grey Reef Shark, so and we were just trying to figure out water temperature for. Bibia read a very high water temperature in this article, and we were trying to figure out where I was trying to find where that measurement came from, because that's really really high. It's what was it? It was like 37 degrees Celsius, which is like 99 degrees Fahrenheit, and for ocean water, that's extremely hot. So if it's a shallow water environment, that would be relatively okay, but you know, other than that, I mean shallow, I mean as in like literally inches, like that's really really hot. So, but I do want to take a look at this. So this is the same area with the receivers, and this graph is kind of showing on the orange areas. The orange sections are showing areas of high activity. These little lighter patches are showing areas of low activity. And it's actually really cool to see that at night, when the tide is going in, you can see a lot of activity with the Grey Reef Sharks. So they are most active with the tide going in at night. And then when the tide is going out, they seem to be taking a break. So much calmer. So, Baby and Dr. Jaws, yes, 37 degrees Celsius, very warm. I thought I saw in the article, definitely read 37 degrees Celsius, but which sea I could not see. LOL, no worries. So, oh my gosh. Well, we'll have to wrap up for tonight, but also, Samarth, if you feel comfortable, you probably noticed like we have the little flag icons in the lower left corner. So I'm curious what country everybody is from. So feel free to share. Just want to shout out. Make sure everybody is covered. We currently have America, Canada, Indonesia, and the Netherlands. But if you're hailing from, or wherever you're hailing from, feel free to pop it in the chat. We'd love to welcome everybody wherever. It's a fun international community. Everybody here is passionate about sharks, and also everybody's like really cool and chill, very respectful, and just loves marine biology. So not to put you on the spot, but always curious. So, and before we wrap up, just want to share some of the footage that we were reviewing. So I think this was probably one of the coolest clips, because we were talking about Grey Reef Sharks and how they behave and how approachable they are for diving. So this is, I think we'll end with this clip for tonight, but this is a really great summary of dive opportunities of Grey Reef Sharks and some of the other species that you see in these parts of the world. This is Kona, Hawaii, and there's a white-tip reef shark swimming around here. Not in this frame, but you might see them in another frame. So, yeah. Where's the flag icon? Does it not show in my display? It's like you have on the far left, you've got my stream. There we go. Thanks, Vivia. Next Dr. Jaws bottom screen. So it should be above the name of the shark that we're covering. So, and then Vivia, with outgoing tide, the sharks can just coast the current when they want to leave the atoll. That's a great observation, actually. So that's actually fantastic, because that's saving on energy. So all animals, or most animals, they will do whatever is the most energy efficient thing. So or they will do whatever they can to kind of conserve energy, and just kind of like make sure they're not unnecessarily expending energy. Sharks in particular are fantastic at that, even just in their design, where They have the dermal denticles that are like these really cool tooth scales that cut through the water, like reducing drag. So it's actually really cool to see that play out in their behavior, where the shark is riding the current to make sure it's not, expending a lot of energy, like unnecessarily. Like if a shark was swimming against the current, it would be just like exerting all that effort, like burning all those calories, and just kind of like not really being an efficient hunter, and not maximizing the energy it does have in terms of the food it has in its stomach. Sorry, got a little bit of Monday brain, but anyway. But that's a really cool observation, Bibia, about the sharks just riding the current, and how, like, in some of the other clips that we saw, let me go back to the one with the sharks hovering. During the daytime, when they're not hunting, they're just kind of chilling, not forcing themselves against the current, but just kind of like chilling. And that actually kind of works where these sharks are obligate ram ventilators, meaning that these are the kinds of sharks that have to keep swimming in order to breathe. And so what's kind of cool is, like, you could probably easily theorize that if the reason these sharks are just kind of floating against the current is maybe they're not exerting a lot of energy and they're just kind of hovering emotionless, so they're not moving their bodies as much, but the current itself is what's flushing their gills with fresh oxygen, so it's another form of energy efficiency. So beautiful shark, and really cool to think about as far as just all sharks are like perfect hunters, but it's actually really cool to see this particular species, how it plays out. So Bibia's flags represent the countries that chatters come from. Dr. Jaws from the USA. Yep. Specifically, I'm from Virginia too. So USA, but the proud, well, not proud, I guess, but Commonwealth of Virginia. I specifically spent a lot of time in the Chesapeake Bay. So I mentioned at the top of the stream, we are at peak shark season in this part of the world, where we have our maximum biodiversity. We have bull sharks back in the bay. We have black-tip sharks and spinners, which are kind of a somewhat new occurrence. They've been observed before, but really rarely, and yet now they're kind of becoming more frequent. Related to global warming or climate change, I think the presence of black tips and spinners, which are typically like, subtropical species, like typically like Florida sharks, it is interesting to see them seemingly. I mean, it seems like we're catching more of them in the Chesapeake Bay than even when I was like an undergrad, which is kind of wild. But we're getting them back in the bay. Right now we're also getting the hammerheads back, so smooth hammerhead, scalloped hammerhead. So long story short, Virginia is a really cool shark place. It's not famous for sharks, but it actually has quite a few species, specifically 54. Depending on who asks, 55. There's like unverified records of gulper sharks here, but 54 shark species